Hey there, this is Mr. Miller. Today we're going to look at developing a grade book and learning how to use basic formulas. This is only part one. Remember, during these lessons, you can pause, go out, complete the work, and then come back to the video again and resume watching the next step before you complete this project. So don't think you have to watch the entire video all at once. Make sure you hit pause, go out, practice, and then come back. So we're going to start this off by typing a couple of things as column headings in our document here, our spreadsheet. We're going to call this one assignment name, points earned, points possible, and score. And then we want to find about 5 or 6 different assignments that we could use. You can make them up. So I'm going to do bell work 1, homework, classwork, project, test, and bell work 2. There we go. Points possible for this one, maybe I do 5 points a day, so these bell works are 25. Homework is going to be 30 for the day. Classwork will be 50. Project's going to be worth a bunch. We'll make that worth 120. And the test is worth 100 points. So we're looking at that number of points. And then just to give it some variation in the scoring, I'm going to come up with some things on here. So that way we're not looking at a true 100% across the board. You can do whatever scores you would like. And 25 there. There we go. So that's what it should look like. We remember that you can always resize your columns. You can double click. It will automatically resize to the longest item in that column. You have to make sure that your arrow is on this thick blue line when you double click. If you happen to be off of that and you select like this, it's going to select the entire column. So you just have to make sure that you're right there. See, if I get too far over, it's going to not click on the right thing. So do that, and score will be my last one. There we go. We will work on formatting the font and the text and arranging things later on in a different part of this lesson. What we want to look at here is the score. And we're going to use a very basic division problem. We're going to take the earned points over the possible points. So it's going to be 21 out of 25 points. And just to help remember, equals the earned over possible. Put that up there in the top. So every formula or every calculation that we're going to do in a Google Sheet or any kind of spreadsheet always starts with the equals sign. We have to type the equal sign. Google Sheets comes up with this. It tells you that you can select a range using your arrows. That's an individual cell. Now we could go out and use a calculator. I could come down here, grab a calculator, do 21 divided by 25. I could do 21 divided by 25. Press return. It's going to come out with 0.84. But what happens when I submit the rest of my bell work and now I have 24 out of 25? I have to go back, I enter the data there, but then I also have to come back, readjust this calculation to 24 out of 25 and press return. And now I have 96. But that's a whole bunch of steps that I don't want to do. Maybe the bell work is actually out of 50 points for that week. Now I have to go back through here and do 50, and now there's my score. So in a spreadsheet, one of the nicest things that it has, that I think is the nicest thing, is the ability to reference data in an existing cell. So when I press my equal sign, and you saw earlier when I was moving my arrow around, it put some letters and numbers there, and it highlighted things orange. So if I am trying to take the earned points divided by the possible points, I can actually use whatever number is in here by using a cell reference. That's B B3 is this cell, this name of this cell. So when I click on it, that is going to appear inside of this equation. It says equals B3. So whatever value is inside of this cell, whatever data is inside this cell, it's going to make it equal to B3. If I divide B3 into C3, which is the possible points, so I have equals B3 over C3, and I press return, it's going to give me the same percentage that I had before, but you'll notice right here that the equation is a little bit different. So this is my result, and what it's doing is it's taking the data in these two cells and performing that calculation. So if I have it set at 50 and it was actually supposed to be 25, I can change it one time, and then it automatically will recalculate in this cell to the correct answer. So if I was going to do that again, I can click equals, and I click on the points earned divided by the points possible and press return. Hit equals, and before, Google asked me if I wanted to use the autofill, and sometimes that is very helpful, and especially right now, divided by this one, it's going to give me notice this pattern that I'm continuing to do the exact same thing. And so if I understand what this is doing, that this is dividing these two together, and I've done it a couple times, then it's okay to click on this suggestion. Sometimes the suggestion is right, and it was. Equals, it's going to give me another suggestion, and equals another suggestion. And it's the right calculation. Sometimes Google does not get it right, and so you have to make sure that you understand what's happening here first, and then you can go back and make those adjustments or use those shortcuts as needed. So we're left here, our score is usually in a percent, and in this version, we are still in a decimal notation. So I'm going to select all of these, and you'll notice up here in the top that I have a percent sign, and I can format this as a percent. I can also go to these more formats, the numbers, and I could choose percent that way as well. But since it's a shortcut on the toolbar, I'm just going to click this one. It does leave me with a percent, but I also have two decimal points, or two numbers after the decimal point. And so if I want to decrease those points, the places after the decimal, I can hit this decrease arrow, and what it's going to do is it's just going to move over, so I'm not looking at all of those extra numbers there. And so here is my final percentage for each of these assignments. And again, what's really nice is that if I need to make a change, there's 85, and I press return, I don't have to recalculate this one on a calculator or even in the sheet here. I can just type the number, and it automatically, as long as I have the calculation correct, it will automatically make that adjustment. So the next thing we're going to do down here is we're going to look at totals. And we're going to use the plus sign. And a total is just the addition of all of these. So we're adding all of these up. We're getting the total of this column, and we're also going to get the total of this column. And this is one way you can do this. Just for our reference here, I'm going to fill this in with a color. That way we know these are our formulas. You do not have to do this. I just wanted to make sure that when I get to this point that you can see which ones are formulas and which ones are not formulas. So this one, I'm going to press the equal sign because every equation begins with an equal sign. And you'll see that Google gives me some suggestions, and we'll work on those in part 2. But what we want to do here is I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to hit shift and then the plus, the next one, shift and plus, the next one, shift plus, the next one. So you can link these together inside of an equation, and it's going to add B3, whatever value is in B3, plus whatever value is in B4, plus whatever value is in B5, and so on. All of those. When I press return, I should get 295. So that's the points that I earned. And again, because this is a formula, if I change this to 110, it's going to automatically adjust everything. It adjusts the calculation over here and the addition, the total calculation down below. So I'm going to do this again, and you can see that Google says, "Ooh, man, you did one of these on the previous cell. Do you want to do it again?" And I think I do. So I don't have to click on each of those. It automatically does that for me. If I needed to change something, I could go through here and erase one of these, and maybe it's supposed to be over here in E7. I could type E7, and now you can see that that box is over here. There we go, C7. So I press return. There is my total points possible for these assignments. Here are the points that I earned. In this green box, I'm going to use the same equation that I did up here. This is going to take these two totals and divide them, so that way I'm taking, and you'll see Google says, "Hey, what about this one?" Because if I did the sum, if I added all these together, if I did a total, I'd end up with like 400% or something like that. I don't want to do that. I want to do the same division calculation that I did before. So I'm going to click on this one and press return, and there is my final percent. I'm going to format it as a percent. I'm also going to move the decimal point back to, got to click on it first. There it is. So I ended up with a 91% with these assignments. Again, the nice thing, if I change this back to 85, it's going to change this calculation. It also changes this one, and because this calculation is based on these numbers right here, it changes all three locations all at once. So that's the end of step one. And in the future, we're going to look at adding some formulas and moving ahead with those parts of the project. So we'll see you in part 2.